Hello, this is Brian Rowe with Mythic MTG Tech, looking at the Commander 2014 decks with regard to their value and speculation potential. If you are just getting into EDH for the first time, all of these decks are a great value. They're much better than buying singles. Pick one that has a good theme to you and jump right in. The rest of the video is really about the long-term value and the short-term trends, but it doesn't apply to somebody who is just getting into EDH for the first time. Now let's jump into the decks. There are several uncommons that are interesting that appear in multiple decks. These are my two favorite. Arcane Lighthouse is great for shutting down Hexproof and Shroud commanders. I would definitely pick it up. Myriad Landscape I also really like for casual decks. It's a little rough in competitive decks because it enters the battlefield tapped, but what I really like about both of these cards is that they go in any deck. And if I've got 4 or 5 decks that could use them, I may need 4 or 5 copies. If you see these in people's trade binders, definitely pick them up. The black deck is abysmal. I don't know what happened, but somebody left out the value. Abyssal Spectre, yes, it's technically a several dollar card, but it's terrible. I don't understand why people like it. I would avoid it like the plague. Grave Titan is the high point of the entire deck, but you can't value it in a $30 deck off of a single card. The way that these decks are distributed, a store picks up a set of 5 of them, and this is going to be the least popular, so the cards from it are going to be parted out. I would sell the Grave Titans now and buy them back in a few months. Nixilis is also just underpowered. He's one of my favorite cards for flavor, but from a value perspective, it's just not there. Avoid the black deck like the plague. The blue deck is exciting to me because of its investment potential. Even without a legacy or modern powerhouse, there are some good cards in here. Thran Dynamo is seeing its second printing. It is one of the best ramp cards out there. Now is the time to pick it up. It will go back up over time. Sapphire Medallion is just incredible. Blue has so much trouble with ramp, and the medallion can be used multiple times. This is one of the best blue ramp artifacts out there. I would pick it up at $4. I would pick it up at $5 or $6. I will definitely trade for it. The Planeswalker Teferi is also very solid. This is a great build-around commander. A lot of these are going to be opened. The price may even drop a little bit, but I would trade for him at the $10 to $12 range, knowing that he is going to be worth it long term. Overall, the short-term value of this deck may not look very large because there isn't a flashy card like True Name Nemesis in it, but long-term, we've got a wonderful Planeswalker, Sapphire Medallion, and Thran Dynamo. It's worth picking up, and it's also worth trading for those 3 targeted cards. The green deck is pretty exciting. It's a lot of fun. It's got some very powerful cards, but it's missing value. I really enjoy cards like Praetor's Council, very solid card, and Skull Clamps is a great card, although it appears in multiple decks. Cards like Immaculate Magistrate and Imperious Perfect are not very valuable long term. They're going to take a long time to go back up. I would avoid them. Cards like Primordial Sage and Essence Warden are super low to start with. Yes, they're powerful cards. I would pick them up or hold them currently, but they don't have a lot of growth to go way up. Primordial Sage would be a $7 or $8 card if it wasn't for Soul of the Harvest, which is larger body and trample with an almost identical effect. Yes, the Sage is better in a competitive deck, and yes, many decks want both the Soul and the Sage, but if you're going to have one or the other, it's going to be the Soul of the Harvest. The card that is most exciting to me in the green deck is the Lifeblood Hydra. Pre-orders on it were around $2 to $3. I've seen it for $4 to $5 now. I am trading for it, and I'm super happy to pick it up. Song of the Dryads, though, is much less playable than I thought it was. I would trade it away as soon as you can. The Planeswalker here is also a bit depressing. For 5 casting cost, I want a Planeswalker that can easily defend itself, not put out a Mana Dork. I probably have Mana Dorks in play already. The abilities on this Planeswalker are just too weak. Going from 3 to 5 and then to 7 in order to use the ultimate. It's just way too slow. But by contrast, Titania is amazing. With fetch lands around, I would easily trade for her at the pre-order price that she was at 3. I would probably even still buy her at the $5 price I'm seeing her at currently. Overall, avoid the green deck for the value, go for the Lifeblood Hydra and Titania as the 2 cards that could spike. Moving on to the white deck, this is a really exciting deck. Why? Because it has another medallion, Pearl Medallion. Yeah, you don't get the benefits of it being blue. Everything blue costs more, but it's very, very useful in ramping white. You also have cards like Grand Arbiter, which are a great card, playable in EDH and even in Modern against counterspells. There are fun cards in here, like Sun Titan, Martial Coup, and Decree of Justice. Yes, all 3 of these cards are going to drop, but once they've hit bottom here in a few months, I would pick them up and because they will recover and they'll be worth at least 2 to 3 times whatever their bottom price is once they haven't been printed for several months. The new white cards are really exciting. Hallowed Spirit Keeper has a lot of hype. It's not my favorite, but Masterwork of Ingenuity I do really like. Not legacy playable, fun, solid EDH card that's going to have some value long term. Copying a Batter Skull or one of your swords is just too good for 1 mana. The Planeswalker is also the best designed Planeswalker of the Planeswalkers. If you can find her for that 10 to 12 range, I would definitely pick her up and hold on to her. She's also a reason to build a deck. Really nice flavor, great card, long-term potential to be a real standout star from this set. The Containment Priest is nuts right now. Why? Because it just won a Legacy Star City Games event. It was in the sideboard, but it shuts down Show and Tell and Elves. Now is the time to sell it. It's not a main deckable card, or at least not as a 4 of. It's not True Name Nemesis. If you can get a hold of this deck and get rid of the Containment Priest, you get the whole rest of the deck for free. These are going to be printed really heavily. Now is the time to get rid of it while it's at its high point. Overall, I would buy this deck short, or I would be happy to buy it long term when it goes back to the $30 value. Containment Priest is a solid card. There's some great cards in here. You can make money off of this short term or break even long term with some great cards. Now, I don't know what happened, but Red seems to have won the lottery this year. It has so many good cards. I just can't stop talking about how great this deck is. Chaos Warp is a card that I can't keep in my trade binder. Every time I put it in, it disappears. Yes, it will drop because of the reprint and because there's so many good cards in the red deck, but pick them up now. Long term, they're going to be great. Solemn Simulacrum is also another card that goes in almost every EDH deck. Being a colorless artifact that ramps you and gives you a body that can carry a sword is just too good. I'm happy to trade for these all day at the $4, $5, $6 price that they're currently at. At some point, they'll go back up to 8 or 9. They'll see another reprint, but that's the cycle where you can make a profit off of trading for them now and selling them when they're out of print. There are even more reprints, though. Wormcoil Engine is down to $10. This is a card that was a promo that was super easy to get a hold of and spiked up over $20 when it wasn't in print. Anybody can put this in their decks. Incredible card. Goblin Welder is also a powerhouse. A card playable in Vintage. Just amazing card. It's down to $3. Pick them up now. Yes, there's going to be a lot printed, but it's a great EDH card with a lot of potential to go back up. Since there's going to be so many of these opened, yes, these are all good cards. I would consider playing them in decks, but the long-term value of these is going to be that people buy the red deck for other cards, so they're going to crash. Even though they're great cards, sell them now. Now let's look at the last 2 big cards that are in this deck. Number 1, the Planeswalker has already dropped about $8 since its pre-order price. Get rid of it. It's good. It's fun, but people are going to buy this deck for other reasons, and they're going to be offloading them. You can pick it up for half the price later. Now, the last card here to really look at is the Dualcaster Mage. Dualcaster Mage has already been compared to True Name Nemesis. It is not True Name Nemesis. Number 1, it's red, so its value potential is significantly less. Number 2, it's very fragile. Yes, it's a good card. It's a solid card. I believe it would even be playable in Modern and might have some edge play in Legacy, but it's not a main deckable several of in lots of different decks, the way that True Name Nemesis fit into Bug and fit into Merfolk and fit into your Deathblade decks. Dualcaster Mage, though, is not going to crash to below $10. I'm picking them up at the $10 to $15 range to hold on to because it's a great EDH card with some legacy potential. Overall, I would buy the red deck if you can find it at retail because Wormcoil Engine will be a $20 card again. Goblin Welder could be a high card. Dualcaster Mage is a solid card. The short-term and long-term value of this deck are very high. It's going to be the star standout deck once the Containment Priest cools down. Some final thoughts on this. I'm really glad to see red and white get amazing decks with great cards in them, really good themes, lots of value. I'm also happy to see cards like Sapphire Medallion that are just incredible cards in EDH with a lot of long-term value. Wizards did a great job on this set overall. Thanks. This has been Brian Rowe with Mythic MTG Tech. We've got a bunch of pack openings coming up either this weekend or early next week. Thank you to all the patrons over there on Patreon. You guys really help out a lot. I appreciate it.